Blackness, utter silence. For millennia, this was the gateway, not to oblivion, but to something else, something meticulously charted. Imagine scrolls hidden for thousands of years, not filled with mere prayers, but with a blueprint. A guide for the soul, navigating a landscape beyond our wildest dreams. But what if these weren't just fanciful myths? What if the Book of the Dead, as we call it, wasn't just a book about death, but a technology against it? A series of keys to unlock eternity? The air grows cold here, doesn't it? As if we've stumbled upon something forbidden. What we're about to uncover might rewrite not just ancient history, but our understanding of what it means to be alive and what comes next. So what was this Book of the Dead? First, let's set aside the rather ominous Hollywood title. The ancient Egyptians knew it as the chapters of coming forth by day. Doesn't that resonate differently? More like a manual for a grand voyage, a rebirth rather than a grim epitaph. It wasn't a single bound volume as we might picture, but a bespoke collection of spells, hymns, and incantations, uniquely tailored for the deceased. Think of it as a highly personalized, spiritual GPS for the afterlife, meticulously charting a course through the treacherous landscapes of the Duat, their complex, multi-layered underworld, and who or what was making this journey. Imagine, if you will, not a singular soul as we often conceive it, but a multifaceted spiritual entity. The Egyptians believed we were a composite of several parts. The Ka, our vital essence or life force, a kind of spiritual double. The Ba, our individual personality, often depicted as a human-headed bird, capable of flitting between the world of the living and the Duat. Then there was the Ak, the transfigured, effective spirit, radiant and immortal, that ascended to the stars. Even our shadow, the Shut, and our very name, the Ren, possessed profound power and needed preservation. Each component had to be protected, nourished, and guided. This wasn't just about passively dying, it was about actively becoming an effective spirit. Sounds far more proactive than simply fading into the unknown, doesn't it? Picture the deceased, spiritually armed with these sacred texts, perhaps papyrus scrolls clutched in their mummified hands, or their wisdom inscribed on the very walls of their tomb. They weren't just waiting for judgment, they were active participants in their own cosmic navigation. They had to traverse a perilous realm teeming with terrifying guardians, shadowy demons, and gatekeepers demanding secret passwords, the correct utterances from their book. Forget a gentle drift towards a celestial light. This was an epic, often harrowing quest. Each spell was a key, a shield, a piece of divine leverage needed to overcome specific trials. Makes our modern escape rooms seem like a rather tame afternoon, eh? One of the most enduring images, of course, is the weighing of the heart. Imagine stepping into the vast, silent hall of Ma'at, the goddess embodying truth, balance, and cosmic order. Before the divine tribunal, the deceased's heart, considered the seat of their intellect, memory, and morality, is placed on one pan of a great golden scale. On the other, the delicate feather of Ma'at. If your heart, heavy with the weight of earthly misdeeds, tipped the scales, well, the monstrous Amit, a terrifying chimera, part crocodile, part lion, part hippopotamus, was eagerly waiting. No appeals, no second chances there. But if your heart was as light as the feather, you were declared Ma'kerud, a true of voice, and your path to the blissful fields of Aru, their vision of paradise, was open. But here's a question that gnaws at the edges of these ancient beliefs. Were these spells solely for navigating a mythological underworld? Or did they also encode a profound psychological and spiritual wisdom? Perhaps a map of consciousness, detailing stages of inner transformation? And let's be clear, exploring this psychological landscape doesn't diminish the potential for a literal spiritual voyage. It might even reveal the very pathways through which such transcendent experiences were charted and understood by the ancients. The Egyptians, remember, operated within a framework where the symbolic and the material were deeply interwoven. Their elaborate rituals, their monumental art, their entire civilization was geared towards maintaining Ma'at, the cosmic order, against the ever-present encroaching forces of Isfet, or chaos. What if these texts, beyond their literal interpretation as afterlife guides, were also sophisticated tools for integrating the fragmented self, for confronting one's inner demons and achieving a profound spiritual wholeness even before physical death? Already intrigued? Hit subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. This entire framework wasn't just about an individual's salvation, it was intrinsically linked to the cosmic order, the very fabric of existence. The pharaoh's successful journey, for instance, was believed to ensure the sun would continue its daily rebirth, the Nile would bring its life-giving flood, and Egypt itself would prosper. It's a vastly different perspective from our modern, often highly individualized views of the afterlife, isn't it? What if the true enduring power of these spells lay not just in their supposed magical efficacy to open gates in the Duat, but in the profound psychological and social coherence they provided a whole civilization? A coherence, mind you, that could very well have served as the fertile ground, or even the internal architecture, for genuine spiritual encounters and the remembered reality of journeys beyond the veil, suggesting the psychological and the numinous are often two sides of the same ancient coin, not warring opposites. They offered answers to the ultimate questions, a framework for a life lived in conscious preparation for an eternity they embraced with every fiber of their being. But does this ancient wisdom hold deeper secrets, perhaps even keys to understanding? Consciousness that even their most learned priests couldn't fully grasp or perhaps kept hidden. Now let's take a sharp turn into a more speculative, almost unsettling corridor of this ancient mystery. We've seen the Book of the Dead as a guide, a spiritual roadmap. But what if its purpose, or at least a hidden layer of its purpose, was far more proactive? What if it wasn't just about passing through the afterlife, but about influencing it, or even, dare we say, hacking it? Consider this. These spells weren't just passive prayers of supplication. They were often declarative, even commanding. The deceased, through the power of the spoken word, Heka, the Egyptian concept of magic or authoritative utterance, could assert their purity, their identity with gods, and even demand passage. I am pure, I am pure, I am pure. Open to me, who are you, what is your name, I am one of you. These aren't pleas, they're assertions of power, almost like divine passwords. Imagine the audacity, the sheer confidence in the power of words to reshape reality, even the reality beyond death. What if certain combinations of these spells, known only to the initiated elite, were believed to grant abilities we can barely comprehend? We know the Egyptians were masters of symbolism. Their hieroglyphs weren't just letters, they were imbued with inherent power. The act of writing something, of depicting it, could, in their worldview, bring it into being or sustain its existence. So what if the very act of inscribing these spells, of performing the accompanying rituals with precise intonation and intent, was considered a form of spiritual engineering? Not just wishful thinking, but a practical, albeit esoteric, methodology. Could it be that the Book of the Dead was, in part, a sophisticated system for what some modern esoteric traditions might call astral projection or lucid dreaming within the afterlife itself? A means to consciously navigate and even manipulate the dreamlike realities of the Duat. And here's where it gets even more intriguing. Scholars like E. A. Wallace Budge, in his extensive translations, noted the sheer variety and specificity of the spells. Spells to avoid being eaten by serpents, spells to breathe air and drink water in the underworld, spells to prevent one's head from being cut off. A rather unpleasant occupational hazard in the Duat, it seems. But also spells for transforming oneself into a god, or into a lotus, or into a phoenix. Were these purely metaphorical? Or did they hint at a belief in a fundamental malleability of the soul's form, a kind of spiritual shape-shifting enabled by divine knowledge and ritual power? It makes you wonder if the ancient architects of these texts stumbled upon something about the nature of consciousness and reality that we're only just beginning to explore with quantum physics and consciousness studies. What if the ultimate secret of the Book of the Dead wasn't just about ensuring a pleasant afterlife, but about achieving a form of conscious immortality, a continuity of being that transcended the physical body in ways we can't fully grasp? Imagine an elite cadre of priests and pharaohs, not just hoping for eternal life, but actively designing it using these sacred texts as their blueprints. Could it be that some of these spells were designed not just to appease gods, but to become like them, to assimilate their powers, their very essence? What if the journey through the duat was less about judgment and more about a profound alchemical transformation of the soul, and the Book of the Dead was the operator's manual for this ultimate spiritual alchemy? The implications are mind-bending. What if this knowledge wasn't entirely lost, but merely hidden? So the Egyptian Book of the Dead, a collection of spells, a guide for the soul, a potential key to understanding consciousness itself. From the shimmering mirages of the desert sands where these secrets lay buried, to the hushed halls of museums where their fragments now reside, these texts whisper of a civilization that dared to map the ultimate unknown. They didn't just fear death. They meticulously prepared for it. They challenged it. They sought to master it. Were they simply primitive people with vivid imaginations? Or did they tap into a profound understanding of the human psyche, of the symbolic realms that shape our experience, perhaps even of the very fabric of reality, in ways our modern science is still catching up to? The sheer dedication, the artistry, the millennia of tradition poured into these chapters of coming forth by day demand our respect, and certainly our unending curiosity. Think about it. The belief that specific words, precise rituals, and a pure heart could literally chart a course through eternity. It's a testament to the enduring human quest for meaning, for transcendence, for a connection to something larger than ourselves. Perhaps the true magic of the Book of the Dead extends beyond just literal spells that reanimate mummies or grant godlike powers. Its enduring strength certainly lies in its profound psychological insight, offering comfort, structure, and agency before the ultimate mystery. Yet this psychological framework itself springs from something deeper, the innate human drive, the very essence of the homo religiosus, to seek meaning, to understand our origin, our destiny, and the purpose that links this life to what truly lies beyond. It offered a coherent narrative, a way to make sense of life and death by connecting the individual to the cosmos, the mundane to the divine, a rational soul's quest for ultimate reality, acknowledging that an existence without such a horizon often feels incomplete. And in a world that often feels chaotic, tapping into this timeless human search for a meaningful continuity, isn't that a powerful magic in itself? Could it be that the deepest secrets encoded within these ancient papyri are not solely about the meticulously charted journey of the dead, a journey whose ultimate reality formed the bedrock of their worldview, but also about how such profound contemplation of an afterlife shapes a life imbued with purpose, aware of the sacred, and in harmony with the cosmic order? While the cultural expressions of what awaits may differ, the underlying human intuition of continuity, of a reality extending beyond our physical senses, seems a persistent, vital chord in our shared consciousness. This ancient wisdom of living, a life aligned with an ultimate purpose that includes what comes next, perhaps resonates even more powerfully today. What if the ultimate enigma isn't only what awaits us after we close our eyes for the last time, a question the Egyptians, faced with such conviction of a real, navigable beyond, but also what secrets of our own consciousness, our own spiritual potential, we've yet to unlock while we're still here, inspired by those who dared to chart both the inner worlds and the very real landscapes of the unseen. The hunt for answers, for that connection to the ultimate meaning, as always, continues. Liked this journey? Hit subscribe for more mysteries. And that's our hunt for now. A wild mix of documented history and tantalizing what-ifs based on bibliographical sources. What do you think?